Hey guys, it's me again. Just a little more tidbits about ichthyosis and the different types of ichthyosis you can have, and more specifically about the type I have, which there doesn't seem to be a lot of information about. The information I'm pulling about my disease and ichthyosis is from the Foundation of Ichthyosis and Relating Skin Types, or FIRST. It's their website. I've gone there many a times looking for resources, looking for more information about different types of diseases, and my disease is I found out more about it, and just basically, about different other people going through, what they go through with having different types of ichthyosis. So if you guys want to check out the website, it is scalyskin.org. So it has some really good information about ichthyosis, a lot of ways to get involved, ways to donate. Ichthyosis isn't a curable disease at the moment. Some people can grow out of most of it and still have flare-ups every now and then, but it is still a disease that most people will live with for the rest of their life. And the more research that can be done on it, the more lotions can be produced, medicines can be produced to help people, not necessarily cure them, but help them cope with it better. So first of all, a lot of people ask, what is ichthyosis? Well, ichthyosis actually comes from two different terms: ichthy meaning fish, and osis meaning a disease. So a lot of people ask, why is it called fish disease? Well, it's not really called fish disease. They use the word ichthy because fish has scales on them, and most types of ichthyosis, if not all, have scales appear on the skin, on the outer layer of the skin. And then most people with ichthyosis have, general physical differences from your everyday people. There are some people with ichthyosis, certain types, that it's not very visible unless you get within, a foot of them. If you looked at them from far away, you couldn't tell they had ichthyosis. And then there are some that it's more visible than others. Another thing that a lot of people with ichthyosis have is the sensitivity to the heat and to the sun. Sensitivity to the heat is because we don't sweat like normal people. Some of us don't sweat at all. Some of us only sweat in certain areas. Like, for instance, I only sweat on my back and on my underarms, and that's about it. And most of the time, it's not for me getting hot. It's if I work really hard or if I get really nervous or something. I don't really sweat when I get hot. I just turn really, really red. Another thing is that the skin sensitivity to the sun. Most people with ichthyosis cannot be outside for more than 5 minutes at a time, either in direct sunlight or even if it's just like overcast outside, we'll get sunburned. And us getting sunburned is a lot more severe than most people. It usually lasts longer. It usually is more painful, and it usually is it takes a lot more out of us. And it's a lot harder on our skin than most people's. Another thing I notice a lot, this could have to do with genetics of a lot of people, but a lot of people with ichthyosis they're generally small in frame. I mean, most people with ichthyosis are on the slender or skinny side. I don't know. I know certain types of ichthyosis, they do have a food deficiency problem where they can only eat certain types of foods, or their body doesn't like certain types of foods, so they don't get as much nutrients as proteins as they do. So that might be why they stay skinny. Um, Another thing is some have short stature where you're not as tall as you should be. There are some that do take growth shots for those whenever they're in their teens to make them grow to the normal height. Another thing is asthma. I've known a lot of ichthyosis kids or people to have asthma. It just depends, I guess, on the genetics too, because asthma can be a genetics thing. Another thing is this one of mine. This is really what caused this discovery of me having trichothyroid dystrophy instead of Netherton syndrome was my appearance of cataracts. Now, cataracts is a film that covers either parts of your eye or your whole eye. That can basically it's like it would be like if you're wearing glasses and you took grease and smeared it over your glass lens. You can't see anything and your whole vision just goes blurry. And it also makes you extremely sensitive to light. I'm already like that because of my skin condition, so my cataracts don't really make it better. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my condition as far as trichothiodystrophy goes, from the medical terms of it. So it's trichothiodystrophy. If you want to break it down and spell it, it's trichothiodystrophy. Now there are other names for it if that's a little too long for people to spell, which it usually is. The other names for it is TTD. There's Tay syndrome. There's also PBIDS, which is which actually stands for what the side effects of the disease are. Which actually, the P stands for photosensitivity, which actually can be either your eyes or your skin being sensitive to light or sunlight. The B is brittle hair. The I is intellectual impairment, or your motor skills not developing very good, or just your brain doesn't really, mature the way it should be as far as with the rest of your body. The D is decreased fertility, and the S is short stature. Now, personally, me, as far as I know, I only really suffer from two of these, and that is the brittle hair and the photosensitivity. I didn't walk till I was 18 months old. I don't know if that had anything to do with my skin condition or not. I don't really think it did. And then the other ones I don't know about yet. I'm pretty sure I'm not short stature. I'm taller than a few women in my family, so I don't think it's that I'm affected by that. Basically, the hair for people with TTD it's brittle, it's sparse, and it basically has a low volume of sulfur in it. Which sulfur is actually the strength or the bond of your hair follicle. So basically, the best thing I can say is, say your hair is like a string of straw. The sulfur is what would make it strong. So if you were to apply super glue to the outside of a thing of hay, it would make it stronger. That's what sulfur does to your hair. Without that, if it gets wet or if it gets really, really dry, it can break apart or fall off. The skin is fine white scales, which I do have. You can see that all over my hands and stuff like that. So it also says generally mild erythema, which is red skin, which I do have. Especially on my face, you can probably see I'm really, really red, usually right around here. Which I get the most exposure to the sun there too, so it's just naturally red from all the sun I got. And also photosensitivity in sun, which means your skin is extremely sensitive to the sun. Your nails is your nail plate may be abnormally thick or thin. Mine is actually both. It's usually these two fingers. They're really thick, and then all of a sudden they'll just break off. But they'll get thick and hard, and then they break off, kind of like my hair. And then the rest of my fingers, which would be these three are generally pretty thin. Height is again short stature. It just depends on the person, genetics too as well. Intellectual impairment, it says the control nervous system is where it really affects you. It says intellectual impairment is usual, but it varies in the severity. Some people might have a mild case, some people won't even display any at all. It also says motor development may be impaired and remain permanently deficient. It just depends on the severity of the case. It is a rare form of disease. I have been told I have a mild form of it, which means there are some parts of it I won't have, or I will have those parts, but they won't be as severe as they could be. Fertility is decreased. Fertility is common. That doesn't mean necessarily that will happen. Age of appearance. Whenever I was born, they could automatically tell something was wrong with me, but I wasn't diagnosed with trichothiodystrophy until I was probably 19, because they kept thinking it was Addison syndrome. Um, we normally have a normal lifespan unless something goes wrong with our organs, which usually ichthyosis, or my type of ichthyosis, doesn't really affect any of your organs. So that should be okay. Test to find out what type of ichthyosis you have. A lot of times they will test your hair or your skin. I have a scar on my side from where they tested my skin when I was born, and then they actually took some of my hair follicles out. And basically, if you have Addison syndrome, you can see the brittle part of the hair, and it has a certain pattern that other types don't have. And then the other thing is it's a recessive gene, which means both of my parents had to have the gene in order for me to have it. So it's not just one-sided. And just because both my parents had the gene doesn't necessarily mean that they had it. They just had the gene in their body from on down to the family. So that's, they could even have just a little bit of part of the gene. So like I said, we really don't know which. I mean, it's obviously from both sides of the family, but I don't know anybody in my family that has that condition. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, if you have any questions or any kind of comments, leave them below. Or if you want to know any more information about ichthyosis or anything like that, just leave a comment. Thanks.